This is Dave Baker from Forged in Fire, and you've been listening to the Reverend and the Reprobate. And this is why you really shouldn't listen.
There will be some episodes where, Ben Abbott will be there, and it'll be Ben and Jay and Doug. There have been, you had Jason Knight, who was on the show for quite a while that was subbing in, I believe, whenever Jay was hurt. How do you guys pick which episodes you're going to do? Who's going to test, or who's going to do what test during those episodes? How does that work?
Well, people who breathe more rarefied air than me make those decisions.
Okay.
As far as who works on the show, Ben and Jay do half and half.
Okay.
We've got 50 episodes. Ben's doing 25, and Jay's doing 25. Those decisions came about when Jay couldn't work in the summer. He had his kids.
Yeah.
During the summer, so he wasn't willing to lose that time with them. So they brought in a judge. Originally it was Jay. Originally it was Jason. And Jason did some time on the show and decided it wasn't for him. And then they brought Ben in, and Ben's worked out really, really well. And I think he's a fan, favorite. So the powers that be just said, well, we're just going to split it between the two of you. Now we have 4 judges. We've always got a backup judge. Ben just had a baby, so he's at home doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he came in and did 4 shows and then went home and had a baby. He'll answer all your product.
Well, I had a theory about Doug, too, because it seemed like he's injured quite a lot. And I noticed on those episodes, you seem to be the one that gets to test. So when is he going to learn to just not challenge you at arm wrestling?
Doug took an injury. Doug took a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
In one of the tests. And I seem to remember that he had a minor injury before, but he ripped his rotator and had to have surgery.
Yeah.
So that's when we brought in Doug's brother and students, his main students from his school, to do his tests for him. And then I filled in, usually doing the sharpness test. So the kill test would have been done by one of Doug's students. They'd discuss it with him. He'd give the feedback. And then I picked up stuff in the sharpness test.
Yeah, I've been following you and Doug on Facebook for quite a while, and the stuff that guy is able to do with weapons is just incredible. And like his knowledge of, how to use a weapon that I've never heard of, that it sounds like somebody from production just threw to you, and he's like, no, it's probably used this way and this way. And then him talking about how to use the weapons in some of his Facebook videos has just been utterly fascinating.
I mean, this is, Doug's, has his own calling martial art, that he teaches and practices. He's done training for the military, and me, I do the historical stuff. So, everybody, I think that's why it's a nice mix. Everybody brings something different to the show. Jay's a ABS master smith. Ben's a blacksmith as well as a bladesmith. So we all have something that we bring to the show that's different.
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't Jay also hurt himself in one of the tests?
Yeah, Jay's mashed his hand a few times.
Yeah,
Jay had surgery on his hand from an injury he had years ago, and he had a bone graft done. So
I thought that was from an injury, because I know a lot of those tests aren't just brutal on the weapons.
He had the injury and had to have the surgery. And that's when Jason, I think, first came on the show.
Yeah.
When Jay had his surgery and he was out for a while. But, Jay's bumped a couple of things.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. I love my wife and I when we watch the show, we always try to pick out what adverb we think Jay's going to use before he does it. I'm going to hit this mercilessly or viciously or whatever. All right, which one are we going to go with this time? But he does. I have seen very few people that have tried to, as far as the strength test goes, have really tried to put a blade through its paces, even when I've seen some of the other guys do the strength test, that it really seems like Jay is doing, which I think it's impressive, because he has done some things that have injured him.
And how many
episode
takes
in particular, he hurt his wrist pretty bad. It had to be iced because a blade broke and
and
like that.
How many takes do you have to do of camera wasn't recording.
Take. That's it.
You get one take?
Yeah, what you see is what you get. We don't get to practice with the Smith's weapon. We don't get to pre-cut with the Smith's weapon, and we don't do extra tests. You're seeing what we do.
That's pretty awesome.
I think that's one of the things that makes the show rather unique in that, and sometimes it goes off the rails. I mean, we've had some, mishaps or I'm sure we've all missed targets once or twice, or done cuts that we weren't, 100% happy with. But that's one of those things. If you're making a weapon, it should, you want to be able to pick that weapon up and use it. If there's something wrong with the weapon, whether the handle's designed poorly, whether it's too heavy, or the balance point's way off, there's a million things you can do wrong.
You mentioned
that's affect the way you use it. So
you mentioned safety, as the main concern for the contestants that are coming on, for the forgers that are coming on. I didn't even think about COVID when you mentioned it. I was thinking the fire, the weapons, the hammers, all of the things that could really hurt somebody.
We do have a medic on staff, so
yeah, that makes sense.
People, look, knife making is a game that if you're going to play it, you're going to burn yourself, and you're going to poke yourself, and you're going to cut yourself, and the grinders are going to. I've got holes in my hand right now from the grinder because I was working on it this morning. It happens. We try to mitigate those risks as much as we can by not letting Smiths do things that we think are dangerous. There's ways to use the grinders that are not safe, in my opinion. There are tools that we removed from the forge floor because we saw Smiths constantly using them improperly, like the buffing wheel.
Oh, wow.
Those are gone. The scariest thing in the shop, buffing wheels and bandsaws. Buffing wheels tend to grab material and throw them.
I've heard of people dying that way, trying to buff a knife out.
I got knocked out in my own shop. Grabbed a pummel out of my hand, bounced off the ceiling, and it hit me on the shoulder right here. And
dang.
I was out.
Wow.
Came to a couple of minutes later on the floor.
Wow.
I can only relate that to my hobby of video games and carpal tunnel. That's my thing I got to watch out for.
Yeah, nearly as dangerous.
Games and I had to abandon video games a lot of years ago.
Because you liked it?
I'm full on ADHD boy.
Yeah.
So I had bought some it was some flight simulator game, and I got this really cool joystick with it. And like 3 days later, work was calling, going, dude, where are you? I'm like, I just need to land my plane. I'll be okay.
Then fly.